Hello and welcome to this episode of Women in Retail Talks. This episode features an interview originally recorded by Women in Retail Leadership Circle's sister brand, Total Retail, and published on the Total Retail Talks podcast. Total Retail's executive editor Joe Keenan interviews Beth Laughton, executive vice president of Omni Retail at Sephora. Listen in as she discusses the beauty retailer's approach to omnichannel retail, why Sephora's stores are more than just a place to transact, and how mobile is impacting the brand's business. And now, on to the show.
Thanks for joining me, Beth.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So let's start by having you tell us a little bit about your role at Sephora, and then kind of a second part of that is, what you admire most about the company.
Yeah, sure. So my role at Sephora is really managing our business in the U.S. around stores and online, but also really thinking about the shopping experience for our consumers across our channels, making it seamless, making it personal, really bringing it to life for our consumer across all of our channels. And, what I admire about Sephora, lots of things, but one of the things is just how we're really a values-driven organization. Some of our values are things like innovation and passion and initiative. It allows myself and my team to really push boundaries and try to trailblaze and try new things and be out there. So I really admire that about the company, and I think it's helped us really stay ahead.
As you mentioned, stay ahead. So Sephora has been recognized as a leader in the industry at giving its customers these innovative omni-channel experiences that you briefly touched on. Why has that become such a priority for the company and, really across the industry as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple, but powerful, which is that, our consumers are demanding it. So if you think about our clients' world today and how much it's changed and how much mobile is at the center of everything, we do. So I think the average, U.S. adult spends over 5 hours a day on their mobile device. They're checking it 150 times a day. And as a result of that, she's taking her mobile phone everywhere, and she's bouncing back and forth between the physical and the digital worlds all the time. And so, our consumer really expects an easy, consistent, seamless experience from us wherever she is interacting with our brand. So, we recognize that. We saw where mobile was headed and where our consumers' world was headed and said, hey, we need to make sure that we stay ahead of this, that we are a leader in these omnichannel experiences. And it's also valuable for our business. I think as many retailers find, a consumer who shops across channels is, more than 3 times as valuable as a single channel shopper. And so that's real value as well.
So I'm going to get into mobile in a bit, but maybe I think it's good to talk a little bit about Sephora's customer. Maybe you want to identify the typical customer that you're seeing, and maybe is it the same customer across channels? Do you see different customers online, and then who's coming into stores? Maybe you want to kind of provide parameters or a little bit around your target demographic.
Yeah, what's interesting about Sephora is we really draw on all ages. People have different needs at different stages. And really across online and stores, we don't see too big of a difference in terms of our consumer. And I think the reason is that, people of all ages are really comfortable now shopping online. And so, they just need different channels at different moments for different reasons. And so that's definitely what we see. But I think one of the most interesting things about our consumer and how she has evolved over the last, 5-10 years is how socially aware and enabled she is. So she's on social media all the time. She's watching YouTube videos about beauty. And so now she's actually coming into our stores with a lot of knowledge that before, our store associates would need to educate her a lot more, but now she comes in with a high level of knowledge. And so that's challenged us to make sure that our beauty advisors, our store associates, are really well equipped and even one step ahead of the consumer if they can be, or if they can't be, being able to meet her where she is and really understand her beauty needs and deliver on her, regardless of what channel she's in.
Yeah, that's a great kind of segue into my next question in terms of, you mentioned the brick and mortar experience for your customers. They're
Yeah.
coming in, they're knowledgeable, they've done this research online, they've, through their mobile phones as well. Can you talk about Sephora's strategy for leveraging its stores as more than just a place to transact, come in and get makeup and walk out the door? You've really built an experience in store. Do you want to talk a little bit
Totally.
about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, our stores, have been and will remain really critical to our overall offering for our consumer. And I think, one of the reasons you mentioned, often our consumer is researching online, at home, but then for us, stores are still such a key acquisition channel. 3/4 of our consumers shop for the first time in one of our stores. And what that means is that, that is a critical moment where we're meeting her for the first time and we can have her interact with one of our beauty advisors who are so well educated and can have this great relationship and one-on-one personalized experience with our consumer. So stores play a really critical role in that sense. And then, it's also a great place where, as we think about these omni-channel journeys and experiences, we're able to capture some really unique data about our clients when she's in our stores that we can't do without some sort of human interaction and capturing that. So that's also a huge role that our stores are playing in kind of our overall ecosystem. And then, as you mentioned, I think the experiential part of our stores is so important these days. I think, retailers that are delivering really compelling, fun experiences in the physical world are going to win. And then being able to connect those to the digital world is the key. But for us, what we're able to offer in our stores around, play and teaching and taking classes and services and interacting with store digital and all sorts of fun things in our stores really bring our brand to life and help people out and actually help them shop.
Yeah, I want to touch a little bit on that data capture component that you mentioned in store, and obviously that extends to your digital properties as well. We've talked about kind of this shifting behaviors of consumers, and I'm interested, from an internal perspective, what is Sephora doing, to really better understand what its customers want, what they expect, really keep a pulse of what today's, beauty shopper is looking for, and then, obviously then try to deliver solutions to meet those needs.
Yeah, I would say it comes from a number of angles. So, definitely some of it is the data we're capturing through her online, shopping journey and also her in-store journey where we're collecting data and really understanding what she's, loving, what she's interested in, that type of thing. But I would say what's most interesting about how we're really understanding our consumer has been, our ability to really track them and understand them on social platforms, both external ones, but also, we've built out a big internal community, our Beauty Insider community, where, our passionate consumers can come and talk to each other. And we really learn a ton about what they care about, what groups they're joining. Skincare is one of our biggest groups, or curly hair group. We know that we need to have enough product and speak to her about curly hair. So it's things like that we learn a lot, in addition to the face-to-face interactions in our stores.
You mentioned, what Sephora is currently doing with mobile in terms of using it, across channels in store as well. Looking forward a little bit, obviously mobile is going to be a great driver of growth for the brand, or at least it would seem to be. What are your future plans in terms of mobile as a driver of growth?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'd say what's really important about mobile is that it's so much more than a place to transact. It really is, and as I was saying earlier, it's our consumers' connection to everything these days. So for us, it's a connection point between the physical and digital worlds. So we're thinking about things like how can we continue, once she shopped with us online, to use tools like mobile push messaging to then send her highly relevant, personalized messages based on what she just did online to actually get her back into one of our stores using geolocation as well, things like that. We also are thinking about mobile in terms of in stores. As I mentioned, we need to equip our beauty advisors with the latest and greatest, and we want to be able to have them, have tools that they can use to actually augment their expertise and help our consumers. And then I'd say, also from a consumer standpoint, we want mobile to be a tool that she can use, if she's on her couch at home, she's on the bus, but also when she walks into our stores. So we launched last year something we called Store Companions. So we detect that you've entered our store, and the app transforms into an in-store shopping tool set for you. So it has kind of everything that you could need to help you navigate the store and, access things like your past purchases, the items you've loved, things like ratings and reviews. So get kind of the best of all the online digital things in the physical world as well. But mobile obviously is so key to that. So yeah, mobile plays just many, many different roles. And I think it's so important to keep thinking about mobile in this really holistic way.
Yeah, so just using mobile as one example, you mentioned some of the different technology, whether it be geolocation or equipping your store associates with mobile devices in store so that they can better serve your customers. All these different tools, systems, technology solutions that are out there. I'm interested kind of from a holistic perspective, not just mobile, but, even, back end operations as well. There's so many different technologies out there in the marketplace. How do you kind of go about it at Sephora in terms of vetting and deciding, okay, here's where we should try to invest in, what's going to move the needle for the brand versus, maybe something that might not be the right fit? Can you talk a little bit about that evaluation process?
Yeah, we're really careful in how we go about that. So I think it's very easy to fall in the trap of like chasing the latest and greatest technology, and there's tons of them out there. Really, how we approach it is really simple. We really focus it around our consumer and what can solve a pain point for her or create a great new opportunity for her. And so that's our main vetting criteria is, does it solve something for our consumer? And so if it does, then it's going to have a good chance of being successful and leading to business value as well. So a couple of examples, one is this Color IQ technology we launched some years back because we knew that one of the biggest problems that every woman has is finding the right shade of foundation. And so we said, okay, let's develop a tool that scans her skin and accurately finds the perfect foundation match for her. And then, back to my point earlier about capturing data, we're then able to capture what her exact skin tone is, and then have that on record, but also send her a record via email of, what her skin tone matches and all the products that work for her. So even if she's not ready to buy in stores that, particular day, she can go home and think about it and engage and purchase the product there. So that's the type of thing that we're constantly thinking about, not so much just what the coolest, latest technology is.
Yeah, when you introduce something like the Color IQ that you just mentioned, what's kind of the process in terms of generating awareness for that, in terms of marketing that? Or do you take to social media? Do your store associates start talking to customers about it? Your website, obviously. Can you talk a little bit about the plan in terms of promotion when you launch a new technology such as that?
Yeah, I think each one is different. So we do think about it differently for each one, but all those things you mentioned are avenues that we would use. I think one of the things we launched this past year that I'm really proud of to help us do some of that marketing and awareness building is called Happening at Sephora. And the idea is to really showcase everything happening in our stores from, services, classes, new technology, events, brand launches, store openings, things like that, so that our consumer is really aware at a hyper local level what's happening at her store. And, we leverage the best of our digital. So we, built it out on our digital platform. We're using mobile to help connect the dots. But it really is a way to really showcase everything and make it feel really personal and relevant to someone, so she knows exactly what's going on in her local store.
So my final question, Mary Beth, is beauty is a fast-growing retail category, and with that becomes a lot of competition. So it's a very competitive marketplace. What do you believe for Sephora the company needs to focus on as it looks to continue the positive momentum it's created?
Yeah, I would say a couple of things. One is what we talked about earlier in terms of experiential retail. I think, we know our clients care about experiences, especially millennials these days. They'd rather spend their money on experiences. And we have such an amazing brand and all those things I mentioned to bring to life around, the idea of inspiring her, playing with her, teaching her in our stores. So I think future retail winners are going to have, either they're going to be super good on the transactional side and be the by far dominant players there, or they're going to win on the experiential side. And so we are a clear leader there. So I think we need to continue to invest in different experiences and technologies that are really differentiated, but also really fun and helpful for our clients. Another area I'd say we need to really focus on is personalization. I think every retailer is on this journey in some way. But consumers are expecting it these days. So I think every retailer has to be thinking about it. How do you have unique data and offer it up to your consumer at the right moment, whether she's online or in your stores, or calling your call center or whatever it is. So I think the investment that goes along with that is so massive that we need to be, continuing to put a lot of focus there and thinking about things like AI and how can it enable personalization at scale. I think that's going to be a critical thing in the future. And also speaking of the future, I'd say, one of the things we need to make sure we're focused on is, how retail is evolving. And I think what's really interesting to me right now is we've kind of, we've gone from brick and mortar shopping and then added on the internet, added on mobile, and now, we're really adding this idea of distributed commerce. So, shopping now is happening everywhere. It's happening where she's spending her time on social media. It's happening at home on voice devices. And so I think staying on top of that and really getting ahead of that trend and making sure we're meeting our consumer where she is another big area that we're going to have to continue to focus on. And finally, I'd say, retailers, including us, I think this idea of diversity and inclusion and being a place where everyone feels comfortable shopping and that they can be themselves is really important. And, our purpose at Sephora is just rooted in this idea of inspiring fearlessness, promoting diversity and inclusion. We just launched a new campaign. It's something we're really proud of, but I think it's also just what's really going to resonate with our consumer in the future.
Yeah, and that's an ongoing initiative, like you said.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank Mary Beth Laughton of Sephora for joining me today. Thanks for joining me, Mary Beth.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at wirlc.com/podcast for show notes. Women in Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Women in Retail Talks.